Hey everyone, this is Coach Nikki B with Create a Vision Coaching, and I'm here today to share something with you about listening. You know, we as coaches are expected to be good listeners, and we've been trained in listening techniques, and we all are striving to learn to be better listeners as coaches. But, it's kind of like being a musician. You never just arrive and are perfect at it forever and ever. Amen. So, I wanted to share with you a little excerpt from one of my recent meetings with my Coaches in Cahoots community. I know that's a lot of alliteration right there. But I wanted to share this with you because I think that no matter how much we know as coaches or how many times we have been, we've gone through programs about listening and we've learned about listening, some of these things I think never hurt to hear again. These are just important parts to the listening process. And I just wanted to share those here with you today in hopes that it might encourage you and help you along the way as you are learning to be a good listener or a better listener or a more masterful listener, whatever part of the journey you are on. Let's talk a little bit about listening. Okay. Marion uses the term a lot, listen brilliantly. Because so many times coaches focus on, oh, I've got to be such a brilliant coach. And you really don't have to be a brilliant coach. The only thing you really do need to work on is learning how to listen brilliantly. So I came up, those of you who know me well, I love acronyms. So I actually came up with the LISTEN acronym, LISTEN. And so let's just go over that and we can discuss it. And the L in listen. And all of these things have to do with being and becoming better listeners. And this is a journey, y'all. I don't think we ever arrive. Like, we're never like the perfect listener all the time. So, like, let go of that. And that's what the L stands for, is to let go. This is crucial to being a good listener. We need to let go of any preconceived ideas or judgments. Let go of the feeling like we need to know anything as we go into our coaching sessions. Let go of any concern about your performance as a coach. Truly, if you can imagine those things as like these little helium air balloons, and you just let them go and watch them go floating off into the sky somewhere, okay? Truly let go of all of that baggage because it's weighing down your ability to be a good listener. So that's the L. The I think, is intuition, or what I would say is inviting your intuition along for the ride. And so I want to encourage you to really watch for those things that bubble up for you. And I had to chuckle a little bit earlier when Lucia was saying, oh, I had it in my mind to ask this question, but oh, this person was an ICF coach and I didn't want to ask that question because I thought the coaching police would come get me, and I want you to notice that I'm just using that as an example, Lucia, because it was such a beautiful example of this. We all do this from time to time. We notice little inklings, little thoughts, ideas, intuitive hits that come up. And our brain, if we're not careful, will jump in and say, oh, that doesn't make sense. That's just ridiculous, or it's not safe to share that. Or we have all these ideas that prevent us from inviting our intuitive self into our coaching conversations. So the I in listen stands for intuition. The S stands for senses, your 5 senses. So as you're listening to someone speak, and you may be doing it right now as you're listening to me, your mind will start to wander. It's going to be, you'll be listening to someone talk, and then some thought will come up like, oh my gosh, I wonder what I'm going to make for dinner. Or, just something will distract you. So when that happens, when you notice that you have slipped away from truly being in that nice, engaged, listening space with your client, one great way to come back to that is to recenter on, one of the 5 senses. Okay. So it could be like what I will do a lot of the time is I'll sit up straighter in my chair, really feel the weight of my seat, like through my, bones, or sometimes I'll rub my hands on, like right now I've got this fuzzy wearable blanket thing on. And so, rubbing your hands against something, or even again, just noticing what you're hearing, coming back to your sense of hearing, or focusing on something you see, whatever it is, but to come back to your body, to one of the 5 senses, instead of getting lost in your thinking and in your mind. We get so caught up in our head space that we kind of forget where we're at in that moment. And unfortunately, then what happens is sometimes we notice that, oh, wait a minute, I really haven't been listening for the last few seconds. And then our brain freaks out and says, oh my gosh, what have I missed? Oh no, now she probably said something really important, and now I don't know what she said. And we get in this thinking space about it instead of just taking a breath, sitting up straight, getting back in touch with our bodies, putting our feet flat on the floor, whatever works for you, and getting back into our bodies and into our senses and coming back to the listening. So the S in listen stands for senses. And then the T, I bet you can guess what the T stands for. And that is trust. You've heard this over and over, I'm sure, from me, from Marion, from David, probably from lots of other people as well. But we've got to learn to trust ourselves as a coach. Trust that who you are, everything you are bringing to the table, your experiences, your thoughts, your being, your understanding of the world, your perspective, all of that wrapped into this amazing human being called you is a big part of what makes your coaching so powerful. Okay, so trust yourself that you are enough as a coach. It's not so much about what you know, even. It's about who you are. So trust yourself, trust your client, that they are capable and that they're creative, and that together, that you can come together and trust in the process of coaching. Because that's about the space that you and your client come together and create this space for coaching, and just this nice openness for learning and growth, and that it's okay to be wrong, and it's okay. Whatever happens, it's going to work out. And having that trust is imperative to truly listening, because then you're not trying to carry too much of the load all on your shoulders. Okay, so that's LIST, and then we've got E. And the E, I think, for me, is represented well in the word elevate. And that is, how Marion talks about the traffic helicopter. If you've read her book, the Heart of Laser Focus Coaching, she talks about the traffic helicopter. And our clients bring us so much story sometimes, so many details. But if we can get up above all that, we elevate above, and we don't get stuck in all those details, but we see the bigger picture. Asking ourselves that question, what is making this a problem for this individual right now? That helps us. That's a great helicopter question, because it can help us elevate above all the different pieces and parts and story and all of that, to see what's really going on here. What is making this a problem for this human being, this client in front of me? So that's what the E is for, is to elevate. And then the last letter, the N, I think that's about noticing. And when I say to notice, so when we listen, we want to notice, but I don't just mean notice like, oh, I'm noticing and I'm interpreting. When I say notice, I truly mean just notice. You could say notice, not know, KNOW. So when your client brings something, instead of making an assumption about it or thinking, oh, yeah, I see that, I agree with that, we need to really just notice it and not interpret it for the client. We need to check things out with the client. Okay, so that's our LISTEN: let go, intuition, senses, trust, elevate, and noticing. And I think all of those things together are great parts, I guess you'd say, of being a good listener. I hope you enjoyed this excerpt all about listening. Which parts of it stood out for you? Are there any of these letters that represent something that you find challenging as a coach? Or maybe one of these is a real strength of yours. What have you learned from your own experiences with learning to listen better or more deeply? I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to leave a comment here. I'd also love to invite you to come check us out. Our community is just amazing. We have some wonderful coaches, great discussions, and we would love to have you join us. You can find out more information about Coaches in Cahoots at www.coachesin, that's I-N, Cahoots, CAHOOTS.com. Thanks a bunch for listening. I hope to see you in Cahoots.